Yeah, very excited, very happy to introduce the GOAT, David Rams, to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I've got to say that intro took me back to my teenage years. Maybe want to go and beat some people up in the pit. I got to be honest.
Hell yeah.
Do some
Or
crowd
get,
killing.
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say more accurately, get beat up in the pit. I didn't do much beating up. I was a very skinny teen.
Yeah,
back in the day.
I was this guy. I went vegan in the 90s. I was a vegan straight edge hardcore kid, and I was 110 pounds for most of that. And shockingly enough, I went to thousands of shows, and I was always dancing, always stomping on heads, always moshing. I never got hurt. Over 10 years of going to hardcore shows, never got hurt.
Nice.
So much fun.
I gotta admit, I didn't go to many. I don't think any hardcore shows actually. I was more into the I don't know, the more popular metal stuff back when I was younger, because I was young when like Slipknot was coming up and stuff like that. So I was fortunate to like go and see Slipknot, which their pits were pretty crazy back in the day. These days they're more like, I think they're not, but I think people consider them to be like dad rock now because
they are.
Know,
everyone's taking their kids to everyone's taking their kids to Slipknot shows these days.
Right. So there's no real. I mean, there were pits last time I saw them, but it wasn't like when I saw them when I was 15. It was dangerous, That was actual danger there. But like you, I somehow got away with it. I never got too badly beat up.
So how did you find veganism?
I was born and raised vegetarian, so I was lucky that my mum had animal ethics from when she was young. She actually went veggie when she was 16 because she saw a slaughter truck taking sheep to a slaughterhouse. So she went vegetarian at 16 and raised me as a vegetarian. And so I already had, I mean, well, the way she thought about things back then, veganism wasn't really even, it was around, but it wasn't really known. Vegetarianism was what you did if you loved animals, right? So I was raised with that, which is a really good start. And then my mum went vegan before me, and I didn't for quite a long time. I was very stubborn because obviously, you don't listen to your parents, right? And then eventually through a few things, through her educating me and me being out in the world on my own, living on my own. And I started to have some issues with some certain foods that were giving me like a lot of gas and some pain, like dairy. So then I started to think, wait a minute, right? So got all these ethical reasons here. And I know she's right, even though I don't want to admit it. And also I'm having these stomach issues too. And it was like, okay, let's just do it. This is the right thing to do. And back then it was more of like a selfish thing, to be totally honest with you. It was more to like fix the stomach things, but it very quickly became oh no, this was the right thing to do for the ethical reasons of doing it. Very, changed pretty swiftly after that. So that's my, not so dramatic or emotional vegan journey.
That's hilarious. My mom, I was lucky enough too. My mom was a total hippie in the late 70s and had me at home with no drugs. And I was raised McDougal vegetarian also.
Wow, okay.
Which is it was very rare to hear anyone that was raised vegetarian.
Yeah, unless for religious reasons. Like you get it a lot in India and Hindus and stuff. But in the West, you very rarely meet somebody who was was raised veggie. So that's cool, yeah.
I went vegan in like 94.
Right.
The first time. And there was no one knew the word. There was no vegan food. There was vegetarian, but like it was very rare. It was only like Krishnas and stuff. And like I got into it when all my friends were like doing drugs and being crazy. I kind of went the other direction and did the straight edge thing. Right. And so eventually the vegan thing kind of fell right in with it. That's super cool. So how did you get your break on YouTube?
Like in terms of gaining subscribers,
videos,
stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I've been quite fortunate from the start. I got into it when the vegan YouTube was booming. A lot of channels were doing really well.
Probably like 2016 or something.
It was 2017. Close enough. 2017. Yeah. And things were going pretty well. My first videos didn't do very well, but I mean, considering how hard it is now, my first videos actually did very well, actually, in comparison to someone starting today. But no, the big break for me was when one of my good friends, Seb Alex, did a video about Sadhguru. Do you know Sadhguru?
Mm.
this Indian guru. So, in a nutshell, this guy, there was a video of him, really big Indian guru, like God man, they call him a God man. They know they put the kind of charlatans, basically. They say the odd inspiring thing, but ultimately all of their ideas are just kind of recycled nonsense that sounds really profound, and it isn't. It's all a scam, basically. It's kind of one of those guys. Sometimes he says nice things, though, to be fair to him. But anyway, he said someone confronted him in a talk about the dairy industry, and because he's a Hindu and doesn't eat meat, but he's really big on dairy. And she just spoke to him and told him about what happens to cows, and he was just really rude and really mean and really dismissive of this woman. And so my friend did a reaction video to that, and it exploded in popularity. So then I said, well, okay, I'll do one too. And mine exploded in popularity as well. But the difference is mine didn't stop going. His stopped at a certain point. Mine kept going. And then I did another video I found more stuff about this guy, and I kind of rode that train for a little bit. And that was probably the big break. That was when the channel just started to gain just like thousands of subscribers, and those videos got millions of views. And then basically tried to convert those new subscribers into subscribers that would watch the other videos. That's been the biggest challenge over the many years of me having a YouTube channel, is having all these subscribers that came for debunking a spiritual guru and trying to get them to now, be interested in the animal rights and the vegan stuff, because it was related, but yeah, it's viral videos are not always a blessing for that reason. Just FYI for you guys. Yeah, don't fall into that trap.
That's wild. What do you think? How have you used any specific tactics, or did you take any did you watch any classes or do a lot of research on how to continue that to go, or did you just run off your organic the whole time?
I think I watched a lot of YouTube videos about making YouTube videos. And I think that's generally my kind of theory there is if somebody has a popular video about making videos, the video is probably good advice. If it's not popular, it's probably not good advice because it's not working, right? Yeah. Clearly it's not working.
That person doesn't have the evidence that it works. So
exactly. So I used that, and I watched a lot of videos by a guy called Nick Nimmin. If you've heard of him, he makes good videos about making YouTube videos, and really simple and really easy to follow stuff. And he does like courses and things as well. So a lot of people like him. I think anyone starting a YouTube channel, that's a good place to start, is to just immerse yourself in the world of YouTubers who make videos about YouTube, right? And just really listen to what they're saying, especially the more credible ones and popular ones, because they obviously know what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. That's what I did. And I did that for a long time. I was in that rabbit hole for about probably like 2 years solid, like just pretty much every day watching a video about YouTube. And so, yeah, it makes some difference for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd like to thank you for coming on. I have such a small channel. It's we're talking earlier. It's especially with the vegan scene, it's like it's very cool when you have bigger YouTubers helping out smaller YouTubers, because we all have the same fight. We shouldn't be competing. So many groups of YouTubers, they're all competing against each other, and they're fighting for different causes or the opposite causes or something like that. And it's one of the rare scenes where it's like we're all helping each other because we all should be helping each other because we all are fighting for the same thing. And it's good for the animals when we make these connections on here, and especially because European vegans are so beast. And over in the States, we don't really have many huge YouTubers that are vegan. You guys got them all over there. So we need some help.
Yeah, Europe and Australia, they're really, really kicking ass for the vegan scene for sure.
Yeah.
You know who Durian Rider is?
Yeah.
Yeah, Durian Rider's hilarious.
Yeah. I found out about him and the kind of that world of those guys when it had all kind of gone to shit.
Yeah.
Everything just kind of went really wrong for them all. That's what I found out. I was like, who are these people? And what's all this drama? And then I missed the glory days. People have told me that apparently before all the dramas and stuff, there was actually some nice period of like really nice times with these YouTubers, and it was all really wonderful. And I've been told by some people they really missed that actually, those days. Yeah, but I missed
Yeah,
all of
him
it.
him and his ex-girlfriend Freely the Banana Girl. I think that's essentially what brought me back to veganism
Okay.
was Freely's videos. That was kind of like in the heyday of like 2014, 2015. What was it? Like Fully Raw Christina. That's like the vegan stuff was really pushed to the forefront of YouTube and just kind of sort of came up on my feed. But yeah, unfortunately, like you were saying, the drama sort of overtook that movement.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just got to keep it going. But luckily there's a whole new face of that YouTube stronghold of vegans that are doing some good work.
Definitely. Yeah, there's some great people out there. Like,
Yeah.
I've covered a lot of newer accounts and some that have been doing it for a little longer on my channel, because I agree with what you were saying, that we are all in the same boat. And even if we disagree on how to get to the end goal, which is oftentimes we all do, even the people that I'm best friends with, we do not agree on probably like 90% of stuff when it comes to strategy and things like that. But it doesn't matter, because we understand that when we're arguing or debating, we're just sharpening the tools. That's all that is. You know, it's not hate. It's not you're wrong and I'm right and you're evil, and it's not any of that at all. And I think that's I'm talking about two things here. I think one, we need to be able to have discussions and have disagreements and basically sharpen our tools. That's all I see that as. And but two, even if there are disagreements and you know, in how to do things, that shouldn't be a reason that you don't invite that person on your channel or go on their channel, or you know, we should be doing that as long as we have the same end goal. Now, obviously, if somebody is saying, "Oh, I don't really want a vegan world," or "I don't really want kind of I don't know, a world where we don't farm animals," then obviously you're not aligned, right? Fine, draw the line there. But as long as we have the same end goal in mind, I think we should. Yeah, I agree with you. We should be propping each other up as much as we can. You know, reasonably, as much as we reasonably can. For sure.
So me and so we've been ever since Christspiracy. Holy crap! My whole I don't know, like I've never been a religious person, so it's very strange to be researching the Bible, and I'm blown away by how much vegan and vegetarian rhetoric there is in the Bible. It's been a complete mind blow. You know, I just keep finding new stuff, and it's crazy. And there's such, I mean, it hasn't, like, there's such a good group of people on YouTube right now doing videos. Yeah, so we've been deep down the Bible rabbit hole since Christspiracy came out, and it's pretty wild. What do you think? Do you think veganism is like a moral obligation, or is it an ethical choice?
Where we go from Christspiracy to that? I thought we were about to go down the God and Jesus route.
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, okay, what do you want me to do first? Would I answer that question, or do you want, or is it linked? Is that connected with?
It's kind of like, yeah. I mean, cool. They meet around back.
It's just because it was like a curveball for me just then. Do I think it's a moral obligation or an ethical choice? Did you say? Or was it right? I don't find I've been asked this before, and as anti-vegans and people who want to debate me have asked me this before, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really find it that interesting of a question. I'm more interested in what the other person thinks, right? So like if I think it's a moral obligation, it doesn't really matter in a conversation with somebody else, because if I can see that me saying that or believing that is going to clash with whatever they believe, then I'm not interested in clashing with them. I'd rather just, so if they believe that morals are objective or whatever and come from God, then I'll talk to them about that. If they believe that actually it's not that at all and morality is subjective, then I'll talk to them as if it's subjective. So I guess for me, I don't really have a strong stance on it, is my short answer. I don't really have like a firm belief. I'm like a chameleon. I can talk to you, whatever you believe. I can find a reason for you to be vegan, no matter what you believe practically, within your framework, within your view of the world. I can be flexible, basically, is the answer. So maybe that's not as juicy as what you're after, but That's kind of how I operate. What about you? What's your take? Moral obligation or ethical choice?
I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think it kind of comes around like back to like the Christianity aspect and the research we've been doing. I think the moral objectivity is important regardless if you're coming from a religious standpoint or a non-religious, or let's say atheist standpoint. And kind of like you were saying, activism, it requires you to sort of be like a chameleon in a sense, right? Sort of like to meet people where they're at. So
Right.
we've been diving into, like, since Christspiracy, just diving into Christianity and the Bible, and I think there is a very strong there's a very strong stance in the Bible that shows that it is morally, it leads us to veganism, right? But I think also that even people who are not into religion or who are atheists, the talking about morals being an objective thing is kind of important, just because it's so easy viewing it as a subjective thing to sort of stray from that path, right? We can justify so many things. If morality is up to the individual to decide, then, you know, why should there be any sort of ethical guidelines for anything if it's all up to interpretation? So that's sort of like, at least with me personally, sort of bridging that gap to where, you know, if you start talking about the Bible, or even if people even get the taste or hint that you're sort of talking about anything about God or Christ or the Bible, they sort of get turned off, right? So I think it's important for us to find sort of a way to connect back to morality being objective outside of, let's say, believing in the Bible, or believing in God. It's kind of like AA. They sort of say like fake it till you make it with when it comes to religion. I think not really like faking it till you make it, but it's vegan activists sort of need to touch people's hearts, so to speak, or connect with that in order for them to see that there is some sort of, there is people acting in a more moral way leads to conditions that improve life for both animals and humans. And so that's kind of been sort of like, I feel like what we've been trying to do is like bridge that gap.
Right.
Yeah.
It's been funny going on podcasts and talking to people, and I bring up the fact that I've been deep in a Bible rabbit hole, and everyone gets really uncomfortable.
People do
Really?
get very uncomfortable.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, maybe because they like I was on a vegan podcast the other day and I brought it up and I was talking about how I don't know, maybe like everyone on the panel got really uncomfortable and adjusted in their chairs when I started talking about the Bible, and it's just like it's funny being on this side because that was always me in the past. Like I was like, oh God stuff, I don't want to, you know, like you know, like I'm
Well,
you know
yeah. I mean, how are you? Yeah, I don't know why.
I wasn't raised religious. I grew up in California, you know, like I didn't, it was never like a talking point of mine, especially in like my vegan rhetoric. And then just like watching Christspiracy, doing a little bit of research, debating a couple Christians. It was just kind of shocking.
I think, I mean, Christianity does have, I mean, look at the Catholic Church, just look at throughout history. They have put a bad taste in people's mouths, so to speak, but kind of for good reason. I mean, the whole dogmatic aspect of at least people who follow Christianity, it's, I mean, coming back to Christspiracy, we see that the interpretations and the translations in the Bible, I mean, I say we, but people have been led astray, and the Bible and Christianity has been used to commit great atrocities and for control and to control people. I mean, we look at government. Government is the new religion. It's all the same idea, though. Any movement gets co-opted. So look at veganism, look at Christianity. All these things can be used for bad and for immoral, to justify immoral behavior. So I think there's a good reason why people have been turned off from Christianity and turned off to veganism. but that's sort of the work, is showing people and educating people and showing them, hey, there's other translations, there's other interpretations, and just because our experiences may have been bad with Christians maybe in the past, people, you know,
Judgmental people.
yeah, overly judgmental and dogmatic people, it's yeah, I think there's good reason for people to be turned off by it, but yeah, it's just it's a lack of education and discussion and people looking at things with an open mind and sort of revisiting things.
So you guys saying have you kind of discovered Christ, let's say, or like in a biblical, like a religious, like deity sense, or is it more that you have rediscovered the teachings about Jesus and that's kind of inspired you to go down the rabbit hole in that way? Like, are you born again Christians, or is it more like practical?
You just asked me that yesterday.
We were
pretty much.
discussing that. Yeah. Because like I was raised, my grandma and stuff was Orthodox, Greek Orthodox. So I was just telling him this. Like I remember as a kid, I had a very strong sense of God, believing in God and understanding it, and sort of went away from it and was an atheist. So it's kind of both, where there is like the practical sense of like these learning about, or like diving back in and have the moral teachings, right, being a practical application of how we should live. And also I think there is a deeper spiritual connection coming back to that. I've felt, but again, that's a very personal thing, and I don't know if I think the practical application of teaching morality is important, is to discuss and spread to people, and then that personal spiritual connection is, people have to come to that themselves. But personally, I do feel like I've had a sort of like spiritual reconnection with God and the Lord, but again, it's not really the focus of my work. I think people need to come to that themselves. But so yeah, I think both personally. What about you, Jeffrey?
I don't know. Being a fellow metalhead, I grew up thinking 666 was cool, and like Satanism didn't seem that bad. Oh, you don't have to take care of everyone. You just take care of yourself. It's cool, And so I kind of grew up like that, and just being all religious people, Christian, and not really understanding morality. And I think most people these days are kind of de facto Satanists. They're living a completely selfish lifestyle, especially the carnists, where they aren't looking at any of this stuff. And so me, I mean, obviously there's obviously a higher power. Come on, guys, like give me a break. This stuff didn't just pop up out of nowhere. And I think, yeah, it's all, I mean, we're going through it right now. It's very new and interesting to me. And like I said, it's very weird to be, quoting the gospel on podcasts in 2025. Like, it's just very odd. But it completely goes a lot, because most people find veganism over health, and like, or most people go plant-based out of health, and hopefully find veganism because it's more of more of the moral argument, which is a moral argument. That should be the main argument we always make. And for a long time, I was just debating people on health and stuff like that, and I had to change and start, and then just finding the Bible stuff. It's just like, holy crap! Like, I can go all day with these guys now. These super judgmental carnist Christians, like I can go head to head with any of these guys without even reading the Bible. But so obviously it's a little bit more utilitarian. I mean, it's a little bit more practical for me, but I'm learning, my eyes are being opened more as time goes along.
I got you. I mean, the beauty, go for it. Sorry.
Shoot.
I was going to say the beauty of I mean, the good thing about learning about religions, I mean, there's a couple things here. Like, whether people like it or not, even the most atheist of vegans out there, whether you like it or not, religion's still here. And even atheists are still practicing a religion in one way or another. Atheists, by the way, hate it when I say this, but I was an atheist for the majority of my life. I lived every day practicing Judeo-Christian values because that is how we are taught. That is how we are raised. You might be an atheist, but you are living as a Judeo-Christian. That you know, either one of the other, a combination of the two values from the two religions. That's what most of the West is living by, whether you like it or not. That's where your sense of right and wrong comes from. Like when we like get older and we start to analyze stuff, we realize that a lot of the things that we were taught from Judeo-Christian values, when you even crunch them down with morals and philosophy, turns out most of them are right anyway, right? Basic stuff. So even if you want to get to that point without religion, you could. But the fact is, most of us didn't get there without religion. We got there because of the religious values that we were all instilled with, right? But and so that's one thing we need to acknowledge as vegans is even if you're an atheist, acknowledge that most people are following some sort of religious guideline, right? And then once we acknowledge that, okay, we've got two choices. Do you want to try to get people to stop believing in their God or to stop believing in the lessons they were taught by, you know, whatever generations of religious teachings, or do you want to try and show them how actually, with some minor nudges in their understanding of these things, and that actually you know, veganism is aligned with it, and sometimes not even a nudge. Like in terms of Christianity, there isn't really much of a nudge you need to show them. It's just, is God peaceful? Yes. Is God all loving? Yes. Can you be healthy eating animal-free food? Yes. Why would you torture and kill feeling emotional beings? I thought God was loving and peaceful. What would God want you to do? What would Jesus want you to do? It's very simple stuff, right? With other religions, it gets a bit more complex, like with animal sacrifice and things like that. But with Christianity, it's pretty easy. And so I guess my point here is you got to be a chameleon, like we said earlier. You got to figure out, okay, if someone's a Christian, then work within that kind of box. If someone's a Muslim, work within that box. If someone's neither, work within that box. But I would never ever recommend you try and tell a Christian that God isn't real to make them go vegan. You're not gonna. It's not gonna work. You're gonna battle them about religion. They're gonna think that you're the Antichrist, and they're never gonna listen to you because you're trying to undermine everything that they believe. And whereas what all you need to really do if you want them to go vegan is just nudge them on this one thing they believe. It's not their entire world, but if you try and tell them that Christianity is all nonsense and God isn't real, you're trying to do a paradigm shift. That's really not smart. I've seen some activists do that, and I really don't agree with it.
Yeah, here in the States, the two-party paradigm is really kind of the worst thing we got going for us against the animals. The idea that vegans are libs, you know, and that's it. And maybe all this biblical vegan stuff is a way to get, you know, might be like how do we stop that? How do we turn that in the other direction?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I'm trying to do that myself. I've been really trying to balance the scales here because there are a lot of vegans that are not hardcore libs or whatever they want to call you. They call us libtards. They call us, you know, that's the main one, right? And there's a lot of vegans that just aren't that. There's a lot of vegans who have views that fall across a wide spectrum of political beliefs. There's a lot, but a lot of vegans don't dare to say anything about it because the noisiest vegans are, in fact, very, very. What's the word I'm looking for here? I'm not looking for an offensive word. I'm looking for like radical, I suppose, radical leftists, you could call them, or like far, far, far leftists. And they get really, really angry with anyone that is on their side having any kind of nuance on certain topics. And so they don't dare to say anything. And I think, we need to adjust that. So like one of the ways I've been trying to do that is abortion comes up a lot, right? With a lot of these conservative people, especially, they go, oh, you're a vegan, and what's your view on abortion then, huh? Because I know you vegans all support abortion, you're hypocrites. And my response, I've figured a response out that it's only given me good reactions from them, and it's honest, by the way. But I've been struggling to find the way to kind of get into this with them, and I'll tell you what I've been saying. So I've been telling them that I live my life in a way that I avoid ever being in a situation where abortion would be even on the table, right? That's how I avoid that topic. I don't even need to discuss whether or not I would do it, because I will never get to that point, right? That's how I live. And that's why I also live that way when it comes with animals, right? I live in a way that I would never need to kill an animal. So you see, there's kind of an analogy there. It's like, don't put yourself in a position where you would ever need an abortion. Don't put yourself in a position where you would ever need to kill and eat an animal. It's pretty simple stuff. If you disagree with the end thing, and you don't want to be in a position where you've got to make a really big moral decision, do I kill the animal or not? Do I get the abortion or not? Don't do the things that lead to that decision then. Right? Simple avoidance. And 9 out of 10 conservatives have just said, oh, that's actually a really good point. Like, okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Like they've not got upset at all. But I've seen a lot of vegans say, it's not the same. It's not the same, and trying to argue why it's not the same. It's like, there's no need. Just tell them, like, yeah, no, I also don't like doing that either. I'm not eager to go and get that done either. You know what I mean? It's just admit it, just say it. Like, yeah, I'm not a fan. Who is a fan? It's not a pleasant procedure. You know what I mean? It's a very horrible, even if you agree that it should be a right, it's not a pleasant thing
to go through
to do, right? So you should avoid it, right? So just say it. Just say, yeah, I avoid that too. I'm not a fan of those things. I think it's pretty simple, So yeah, no, that's one of the ways, just as an example, of trying to like move the needle, so say like, no, vegans are quite reasonable people. We're not we're not all crazy, like, yeah, we love abortions. Like, no, most people don't want them, like most people don't like those procedures, but they just, and then if they want to ask you, do you think the people should have the right? Then you just say, I'm not interested in that conversation. You know what I mean? I'm talking about me and you here, not whether a million people should or shouldn't do it. That's a whole other conversation. So, yeah.
A couple years ago, I think you actually spoke at this event. I think it was Vegan Camp Out. There was a speaker that came up and talked about taking all the animals out of nature. Do you remember that?
Really? I don't remember it wasn't, I remember Humane Hancock's speech, but his speech wasn't that. He never said that.
Do you remember that?
I do not know.
I've never heard anyone say
it was in the UK, I think. And there was a guy who got up in front of everyone and was talking about how vegans aren't, we're slacking because we aren't pushing taking animals out of nature, because in nature they get killed, and like we'd be able to take care of them better and all that stuff.
Oh, I've never heard that. I missed that talk. I know Jack Hancock, Humane Hancock, discusses all the different things in the wild, that happen between other animals, and how he believes that there are interventions that we can do that actually don't cause any issues for the wider picture. Like, for example, there was a great example he gave was there was this parasite that it literally provided nothing to the ecosystem. There was no reason for its existence in terms of like, ecosystem balance and things like that. But it was a horrible parasite, and it left, I think it was like flesh eating or something like that. And it was so they eradicated it. And that was like a human intervention for the sake of preventing suffering in wildlife. And so, yeah, they talk about things like that. And I mean, that seems reasonable to me, that if you can eradicate a flesh eating parasite out of deer, for example, and that's no longer a thing anymore, seems like it might be an obvious thing to do. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's about the extent. I mean, I really don't spend much time on those kinds of topics, because I'm mostly focusing my time on on the human kind of caused issues with animals. Like we are continuously breeding, enslaving, violating them, and then breeding more and doing it again, and breeding more and doing it again. It's like a constant cycle. Yeah. So that to me is my priority. But there are other people who, it is. Jack Hancock is one of them. Humane Hancock, he puts quite a big focus on that. For anybody who wants to go and check that out. Maybe I don't know if that was his speech you were talking about. I don't believe he said that though. So maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's somebody else's.
He was talking about taking like separate. I don't know. It was pretty wild, and it was Jeremy Gord. he's in the chat. He remembers this because we
Oh,
talked
yeah?
about it a bunch of times. I
Hmm.
think we even debated it on my show once. But Jeremy, do you remember who that was? Who that? But it was pretty wild, and like a lot of people supported it, and I was just like,
Mm.
and that kind of
Yeah.
goes back to this arrogant idea that like the state knows everything, because obviously this, if that was voted on or something, if they decided to intervene, it would be, you know, it kind of, I don't know, it just kind of leads me back to that idea that government knows right, knows best, and that humans know, you know, when we're really, you know, most humans are de facto Satanists, you know, like they're completely, you know, it just scared me when I saw that, because it got a lot of support. Like people were like going crazy, clapping, and I was like, yikes, that sounds like a terrible idea to me. You know,
I
like
think
wouldn't,
like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's like a lot of debate on it, and you know, from seeing some of these debates and from seeing some of the even older debates, people were debating this in like 19. God, what was the oldest one I saw? I think I saw something from like the 30s or something like that. Like it was an ethical debate even back then. So people have been talking about this for way, way longer than we've been around.
yeah,
And so I'm not going to claim to have any like, you know, super, super strong, like educated opinion on it at this point. But I think what I will say though is like, if anything is going to be done in that world in terms of, you know, mass intervention, things like that, it's going to be after, way after we have solved what we're doing to animals. You know, imagine like some
yeah,
hundreds of
of
years
course,
into the future,
yeah,
and then we're no longer breeding them, and we get our food and we get all our nutrition other ways, and it's all great, and we have a really good relationship with animals. I imagine those people, with all of their technology and all of their different advancements and all the things, would have been a much better standing. But I mean, yeah, people are talking about it now, but I don't think they're intending on doing anything now, as far as I can see.
yeah.
That's why
Obviously, that would
I don't
be,
spend much time on it.
yeah. I think that's kind of what the conclusion we've come to, and whatever we've talked about it, we're just like, you know, obviously this is not anything we need to be talking about now.
Right.
Because
But
like,
if people want to talk about, I mean, it's philosophy. If people want to discuss philosophy, then go ahead, discuss
speculate,
philosophy. You know?
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. There's a lot of like, I don't know, like that kind of seemed like it came from this whole utilitarian kind of movement that a lot of vegans are getting into. They, you know, I remember debating a utilitarian, and it was like, okay, so if you find a rat in your house, this guy was claiming you should just stomp on it because sending it outside is a far worse death. And I was just like baffled. Because it
Right.
just seems like the complete wrong way of thinking for vegans, and this was coming from vegans, and it was just kind of shocking.
I don't really understand that, because that would be kind of like, well, hold up a minute, let me just get my head straight. So if you put the rat outside, they're gonna have a worse life, so stamp on them and save them from that worse life. Okay, fine. Okay, let's send those people to some African villages then with a machine gun.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really understand if it's utilitarian. If there's no, I think a lot of utilitarians, they fall under this other category called oh god, what's it called? It's when they've got a limit. They have lines. They call it something utilitarian. I'm not really, like, I know the stuff when it's in front of me, but I've not
Yeah.
memorized it all. But anyway, someone in the chat maybe could say what that is. But yeah, there are some utilitarians that they have a cutoff point, or they have a specific thing that changes it. It's not only utilitarian, you know, there's something that modifies it. But yeah, it's a weird way of seeing things, and I think in a human context they wouldn't bite the bullet. And so
Yeah,
why
true.
in a non-human context would you say that?
Yeah, it's like a arguing point, but it's not something anyone would probably do in their real life.
No, and also there's no guarantee that the rat would have a worse life as well. They could just literally run into the next person's house and then have the life they were just living. Why would you kill them and take away that chance that they have to actually have something good? That's a weird one to me.
It is very weird.
But there's just on the surface, maybe I'm completely wrong and I'm missing a huge thing. You know, this is just off the top of my head, but it doesn't feel like it makes sense intuitively.
Yeah. So let's see, we got about 15 more minutes. Back to the Christspiracy stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think? So did Paul kind of screw things up?
The Paul,
Paul the
yeah, well,
apostle.
it seems like it. If if you take Christspiracy by its word, yeah. I mean, Paul like killed some people, didn't he? Killed people who didn't
He
believe in eating meat.
stoned. Yeah, he was there
Yeah.
for the crucifixion. He stoned some.
Oh gosh, I forget his name, but yeah, he participated in the death of an early Christian Jesus follower, and then came around and started preaching and being the next guy, the next big Christian guy.
And it seems like he was the guy who kind of covered up all the vegetarianism and the animal stuff.
Yeah, he was the world's first anti-vegan, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And we get his quotes thrown on our face every day, like, oh, God said we shouldn't mess with our neighbors about what they eat, and all this stuff.
Right. Yeah. There was some stuff that I found that there's this whole thing about, oh God, what was it now? I was talking to Cam about it. There's this whole thing about animals don't have a soul, right? There was this whole animals don't have a soul. Do you know that's not in the Bible at all? Actually, the Bible says they do have souls. They have life. They called it like a life something, the translation. But the actual thing, that animals don't have souls, that came from a guy who was writing kind of, at the time, like he was a Christian, but he wasn't like the word of God or anything like that. Wasn't a prophet. But then people blend it, and they seem to think that the Bible says animals don't have souls. Yeah, that's not the case at all. I found that blew my mind when I think it was Cam, or it was a reverend I was speaking to. Both the interviews are on my channel. Yeah, that's wild to me.
Yeah, the Bible says that
core Christian. Sorry, I was going to say such a core Christian belief that animals don't have souls didn't even come from any real, Christian text like the Bible.
It's shocking how many things we've been told are in the Bible that aren't. It's really shocking.
It's wild, isn't it?
It's crazy looking at the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament, because there's a lot of weird stuff. The fish, the Jesus eating fish all the time is not in the early stuff at all. The Easter morning, Jesus just wasn't in the cave anymore. He didn't get up in front of everyone, walk around and eat fish. If you go read the earliest stuff, he just wasn't there in the morning, and there was some boy wearing nice clothes inside the cave, and he told everyone that Jesus left and was taken somewhere else. And everybody's like, oh, what about the fish? And it's like, there's only bread and wine, when you go early, all the, and then the Passover, Jesus was a Essenian, which they did Passover the day before Passover, and they did a vegetarian Passover. So, and like eating the whole Passover lamb, not in the Bible anywhere says that Jesus ate the Passover lamb, but you'll get that from any Christian carnist. They'll be like, oh, Jesus did Passover. And it's like, how do I know this, but you don't, but I get it, because if you're reading the book from carnist viewpoint, you're not even going to see any of that stuff. You're completely going to disregard it because it's not going to be anything you're interested in. And it's been really funny because I've been looking at a bunch of people's interpretations of Genesis on YouTube, and everyone leaves out 11. They go from 1 to 10 and they just stop at 11, because it's like, how are you going to interpret that not as we're supposed to be eating vegetables and fruits? Like it's completely nuts.
I think you've given way too much credit to people when you say like the way that meat eaters read the Bible. They don't read the Bible.
I don't think they do either. Yeah, they don't.
Like 99% of Christians haven't read it at all. Maybe they were taught it at school a little bit, some Bible class, but they've not read the whole thing. And I'm not saying that as like an insult or a gotcha. I'm saying that as it's just a fact of the life. It's just a fact that most people haven't read it. And so when you know more than them, it's not really difficult to know more because you're actually applying yourself. It's the same with all the religions. Like I've spent some time learning stuff about Islam, Christianity, and Judaism because they're the ones that you come up against with people the most on. And I found myself, I actually tend to know more, especially with Islam and Christianity. I know more than most people who they are full-on Christians or Muslims. And especially when it comes to animals, I know quite in detail how their religions deal with animals, more so than they do.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we need to do that as vegans, because like we said earlier, you got to be a chameleon. You can't, I mean, obviously you don't need to get into religion if you don't want to. You can just kind of deal with the meta of it. So it's, like I said, is your God peaceful or not? Yes. That's all you really need to know to go by to start talking about animals. But it's better if you know the practices. And for example, with halal killing, why did Islam introduce halal killing? Why did the Prophet introduce halal killing? Well, the point was to spare the animals from suffering. And that thousands of years ago, to have a very, very sharp knife and one clean slit across the throat probably was the best way of doing it thousands of years ago. They all thought they needed these animals to eat these animals. They had no choice. Okay, so what's the best way we can do it? Well, don't show them any other animals. Make sure that they're calm, and say a prayer, and then do it quickly as possible, right? That's
bleed
like a
blood out
peaceful,
of it. Yeah.
right. That's actually a peaceful approach to doing that. And yet today, Muslims are stuck in the same place. It's like, listen, if the Prophet came today, he would be saying, well, now that you guys have all figured out that you don't need to eat animals, the peaceful thing to do is to not eat animals, right? But as it happened, it was thousands of years ago. So no, it was a different lesson,
Yeah. It was life or death back then.
Right. Well, at least they thought it was anyway. I mean, I don't know if there could have been alternatives, but
There definitely
yeah, there are some Muslims who say that actually all animal products are haram, because they're all haram in one way or another. The animals aren't supposed to suffer. Literally all animals in all forms suffer, right? And so just by that, it's already haram. And also, if the point of halal killing is to avoid the animal suffering, when you have a choice to not kill and eat the animal, doesn't it automatically become haram then as well? And asking Muslims this, you usually get some pretty interesting answers.
That sounds fun. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to dive into that. Yeah, it's always the loudest Christians too, that have the balls to come up on my show and debate me on it. And it's just like, whoa, dude, how do you not understand all this stuff?
Yeah, I think it's even better with Christians though, because they don't have there's no kind of Christian killing, and there's no animal sacrifice ceremonies or anything like that. And also, you have that beautiful question: describe to me in detail, leave nothing uncovered. How would Jesus kill an animal? And just watch them, clam up like, oh God, what would he do? I've heard the best one I've heard is, well, he would just will them. He would just will them
to death.
Right? Will them to death. It's like, okay, but Jesus is supposed to be teaching us how to be good. We can't do that, right? So Jesus in human form, without his powers, how would he do it then to show us how to do it? Come on, what would he do? How would he guide us? Any answer is horrible. And imagining it is horrible. But you know what? It wouldn't be horrible. It wouldn't be horrible if we had no choice. The reason that people get uncomfortable is because they know damn well that they can choose not to do it. And the idea of Jesus killing for pleasure, that's a horrible idea, right? And that's why they clam up. That's it.
True.
Someone in the chat asked, why do vegans care about sentience?
Why do vegans care about sentience? Because if you don't value... sentience is like linked with the ability to suffer and feel emotions and all those things. And if you don't value sentience as a kind of deciding factor in these things, then that would mean that you would equate a broccoli with a pig. And that doesn't make any sense when you're speaking about morals or ethics, because we know for a fact that the pig has a much more complex, emotional system, because they are sentient. Sentience is just a word that we've created to describe what it means when something's like self-conscious, self-aware, has emotions and feelings, like an internal thoughts and a brain and a central nervous system and all those things that make, can generate like sentience and consciousness, whereas plants don't have sentience. And so, that's why I think, that's why vegans talk about it, because a lot of people like to bring up that, well, you still kill plants. And we say, yes, we have to eat something. And we'd much rather eat the non-sentient plant versus the sentient animal, right? If we're going to choose, I think most people in the world who are being honest would say, yeah, obviously, if we have to take calories from somewhere, it's probably best to go to the plants and not to these animals. So,
All the carnist arguments are all too funny, man. And it's
Mm.
funny because I was vegan when I first went vegan in the 90s. People thought veganism was cool when you tell them about it. You know, they'd be like, "Oh, wow," especially like when you're a teenager doing it, you know.
Really?
And so it's been crazy being vegan now, and just the whole opinion has changed so much, and just
Right.
the arguments are so terrible. I have some of the smartest people on the planet I'm connected with, and they're carnists, and their intelligence just goes out the door once they start arguing for carnism. It's super funny.
Some of the
And you know
smartest people in the world do that as well. Yeah.
yeah, they
It's,
straw man. They immediately
Mm.
straw man, like you said. They'll go, "Oh, well, plants feel sentience. Plants feel sentience too." And it's like, well, bro, that's an argument for veganism. And
Yeah.
vegans eat the least amount of plants.
Right.
Like when you eat a cow, that cow ate 3 million calories worth of plants to make 1 million calories. You know, it's like it's a complete like you're in a hole.
You know what's a shame though, and I'll tell you this because this might help you with the frustrations. It helped me with the frustration. Don't try not to get yourself in a position where you think that everyone is just like purposefully taking the piss out of you. Like everyone is purposefully just being avoidant, or it's actually probably not the case. They just did a survey in England and they found that I think it was like 70 or 80% of the people they surveyed genuinely didn't know that a cow has to be pregnant and have a baby to produce milk.
Yeah.
Now that to us is the most basic thing. We don't even talk about it anymore because it's just so obvious, right? And when people, but the thing is, we're skipping ahead, I think, too much. I think we're assuming that people have some kind of base knowledge about animals and farming and veganism, and then when they ask us, "Don't plants have feelings?" We're surprised. We're like, "Oh, how could they not know this?" And it's like because they genuinely don't know this. The vast majority of people have never given it a second thought. They've never even thought, like, do cows need to be pregnant? Do plants feel pain? Is there some reason that I should bring up lions? Like, it's not like these are usually the first times they've even had these thoughts. I think we as vegans
really bad at asking questions, basically.
Right, basically. And I think we as vegans, like, it's really hard, but I think we need to really try to remember that even if it's the millionth time you've heard this, there are 8 billion people. You're going to hear it another 10 million times.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we need to try and be, it's so hard, but I think we need to try and be understanding and like not bite their head off maybe, and just try and treat it as if, assume that they're being genuine, assume that they're being innocent here. Don't assume that they're just trying to argue. It's really hard though.
Wait, David, you're trying to tell me that chocolate milk doesn't come from brown cows?
That blew me away. I found that out just recently, actually. I had no idea. I didn't believe that. But some people do, though, you know, especially the TikTok generation. Unfortunately, they've been, their IQs have been beaten down by TikTok. So I think a lot of those guys maybe believe that, unfortunately.
That's definitely true. You got anything? I don't think it's good. All right, man. You want to? I think we just hit an hour. We'll let you go.
Cool.
I know it's you. Where do you live?
I'm in Croatia.
Wow, Croatia's beautiful. Yeah. We're big cyclists. We love to ride through Croatia. We've seen there's lots of races and stuff they have there, and it's like, wow.
Where are you guys based now?
California.
Okay,
LA
cool.
in Central California. Yeah.
I'll be at the AVA conference. Do you know it?
No way. You're gonna be here?
Yeah.
Where's it at?
It's in LA.
No way. Very cool. Yeah. Shit. We'll come for sure. Awesome. Yeah. You want to shout out your channel?
Sure. Yeah. If you want to come check out my work, it's David Rams on YouTube, also on Instagram, also on TikTok. And I think on Twitter as well. I'm quite active on Twitter as well. So it's all just David Rams all over. Come ask some questions, get involved in the comments, watch some videos, drop me a DM if you want to ask a question. Someone's put a smart pass. I thought it was a hard pass. I thought they were making fun of me. You don't need to come along if you don't want to, but you know, you're all welcome to come over. It's
you go live sometimes, don't you?
I do go live. Yep. And my general my general way of doing it is that there are no stupid questions. I'm really trying to create that environment where there are no stupid questions. So if you've got a question you don't want to ask vegans because you're worried that they're going to bite your head off, come and ask me. Let's have a chat about it. That's the kind of community kind of environment I want to make. So
I should probably start heading myself in that direction too.
Up to you. Hey, if it's, you got to do what's right for you, right? As well. You don't want to be fake. For me, this is where I'm genuinely at. Like, I'm not putting it on. I'm genuinely like, feeling this way. So, but yeah, there's some days I'm not, you'll see by my social media, some days a little bit sarcastic, but mostly still open and welcome.
When I first started watching your videos, I noticed the righteous anger. I noticed a little bit.
You go, my old videos were, I've unlisted a lot of them actually, because I don't align with them anymore. But yeah, there was a lot that were, probably did, I don't know. I don't think they did harm necessarily, but they didn't do as much good as they could have done if I'd have just said things a little differently, So I've taken them down and trying to do things a little differently now.
Awesome. Well, thanks
for this
so much, dude.
Great to hang out.
That was so much fun. Thanks, man.
See you guys later.
See you, man.
All right.
Peace. Oh, shit. Ooh. And see you guys later.
Cheers to the people who did wake up and activate and become peers in the great work. Nothing but admiration and thanks. And this forced shadow work has not been for you. It has been for those who did not respond to the fucking call of freedom. And you guys already know that. I don't even need to repeat that. But I will say with my Vienna lager here, cheers to the people who really did the great work. The ones who really activated, the ones who spoke out, the ones who put the message of freedom publicly out into the world through the creation, the creative expression that came from within themselves to publish and communicate it to those in need of that knowledge. You're my brothers and sisters, and you're my peers in the great work, and thank you. To every